Cloud. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Living History. I'm Carol Daniel, news anchor with KMOX Radio here in St. Louis, Missouri, and Odyssey, our ownership company. It is so great to be able to talk to people who are living history. We know that history is the study of the past. Historians like to study history as a change over time. And so I wanted to look at today in time and talk to those people who are walking amongst us, who are, as I am calling them, living history. Our next guest is that. He is Al Mitchell, who is the president of the Bear Fund and vice president of corporate engagement at Bear. Al, it is so great to have you on Living History on KMOX.
Thank you, Carol. This project.
So tell me, before we get started with your journey and your history, what is the Bear Fund and what do you do as president?
Oh, great question. So Bear Fund is a nonprofit foundation and as an extension of Bear Company. But we're a separate entity from the company, and our job is to look for nonprofit organizations that have programs that uplift our community, particularly in the areas of STEM education, food and nutrition security, and then health and wellness with a focus on cardiovascular and cancer services. But we look to invest in those communities that actually don't have access to these resources.
Is that a difficult job? I would imagine that in a way it is, because so many requests come your way for funding.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people would love to have this job. Actually, it's the best job I've had in my career, because they think, oh, how difficult can it be to give out money? And I said, it is very, very difficult, because you say more no's than you do yeses, because you don't have an endless pot of money that you can give out. And like St. Louis, which has over 9,000 nonprofits, it's not for want, it's not for lack of need. It's just the resources that you have to work with. You cannot serve every single person.
I remember when, I can't remember the exact year, but when you were announced as the next president of the Bear Fund, and I thought, well, he's a young man, but you've been at Bear for almost 40 years. Am I right?
I'm actually proud to say yes. This is my 39th year between Legacy Monsanto and Bear, with the majority of it, about 30 years, 32 years, have actually been in the finance area, which is my background by trade. And then I've been doing this work, replacing the legendary Deborah Patterson, now.
When you got your degree in accounting, I'm so curious, as a high school student, maybe you even knew in middle school that you loved math. I would imagine you did. You're kind of shaking your head. When did the numbers bug bite you?
Well, so you know how you maybe have a gift, but you don't know you have a gift?
Right.
So I attended Beaumont High, and there was this test you took, right? It was called the aptitude test.
Right.
And based on how you graded, it then would say, based on your scoring in this area, these are some potential careers. And so I scored very high in math. And bookkeeping. And then we had encyclopedias back then, right? And there was no Googling or anything of that nature. But I looked, and an accountant made $35,000. And I was like, I'm going to be rich. That's what I'm going to major in, right? So I kind of stumbled into it because I didn't know what an accountant was, right? I wound up taking a bookkeeping class in high school, and I go, I kind of like this. It's balancing, it's analyzing, it's footing, and I like numbers. And so that's what started down my path to attain my degree in accounting.
I love looking at $35,000 and thinking you're going to be rich.
I did. I really did. It's a funny story now, and I look back now, and what my starting salary was, I wasn't even close to that, but I was happy.
So was there anyone who was saying, go for it, Al, when you're in high school? Or were there those who, and I will tell you a story that when I moved to Cape Girardeau and got a job as a talk show host there, there were those who basically were thumbs down on the idea, not because they didn't think I could do it,
Yeah.
because they said there are no men there, which I thought was the strangest thing to bring up when I am trying to elevate my career. But I wonder who said what to you
Yeah.
when people find out that you, A, young Black man, Beaumont High School, want to go to college, and B, want to be an accountant.
So I actually had no inkling or idea of college. So my mother didn't go to college. She barely finished high school. My father barely finished high school, was in the Army, right? And served in Vietnam. And so I really had no image or someone to look up to who had actually gone to college. So for me, it was like graduating, right? Getting a job, 9 to 5, punch in, punch out, do my job. Hopefully I'll be able to rent, not even own. It was rent. But in high school, my teacher name was Miss Ann. One of my teachers was Miss Anderson. And she said, there is no reason for you not to go to college. I was salutatorian in my class. Right?
Really?
Yes, I was salutatorian in my class, but I had no idea of furthering my education because I had nothing to look up to. So between my counselor and Miss Anderson saying, you should do this, and you can do this, and then I took it home to my mom. They said I should go to college. And we started delving into what are the options. And interesting enough, and I don't know if this is going to be one of your questions, but everybody asked me, I graduated from Michigan State University. And people said, well, how the heck did you wind up at Michigan State?
Yes.
Well, in 1979 is when I graduated from high school. And that was the year that Magic Johnson at Michigan State University won the NCAA championship. And I, in terms of what I dreamed and what I hoped I wanted to be, was an athlete. Now, you met me. That went out the window when I stopped growing. And I really had to focus on things that's going to make me a living, right? But I went there because he was just a sophomore. And I go, wow, I get to go to games. And I applied there and I got accepted into Michigan State.
There's so much to unpack with that. So it is true that people do choose colleges based on the NCAA rankings and winnings and all of that.
Absolutely. Yes.
And were you an athlete in high school?
No, I went out for basketball. I did. I admit I got cut, right? And then but that was my sport. That was the only sport. I was too small to play football, right? Wasn't into the other. Tennis was kind of a slow game. So once I didn't do basketball, I was done. So
you're a fan. You're still a fan.
I'm still a fan.
And because you were a fan of Magic, and you said he was a sophomore then?
He was a sophomore, and they just won the NCAA championship.
Wow. Yeah. So you got to see him play in college?
No, that's the downside. So I get accepted. I'm all excited, and Magic Johnson says, I'm going pro.
Right.
So, and Mama said, well, you got accepted. You are going.
Because after he decided to go pro, were you thinking, I'll go to another college? I don't want to
go to another college. Yeah, I was thinking, well, maybe I'll go to Kansas, because my counselors wanted me to major in engineering because I was good with numbers. I didn't like the science side of it. Yeah. I like more of the accounting and bookkeeping, right? So I said, well, maybe I'll just go to Kansas and think about engineering then. And she said, no.
And Mama said no.
Mama said no. Yes.
And back in the day, kids listened to their parents.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Mama said, get a job, got a job. Mama said, be in when them lights come on, you be in when them lights come on. Yeah. I tease my kids now as they were growing up. It's like, boy, you guys have it so easy. You know, yeah. We're not making you wash the dishes and vacuum the floor. We're asking you. You're so privileged. They go,
they have no idea.
They have no idea.
They have no idea. They don't know about the look. They don't know.
Oh, I really don't know about the look.
All my mom and daddy, they don't let my father don't let it get to him.
Right.
But my mother was scary enough with the look. Oh, that's so funny. And
Yeah,
what we're admitting is that we are weak parents, is what we're.
I know, I know, I know.
So I do love it that she said, no, you're going, but
Yeah,
I'm curious too, because my parents also did not go to college and didn't know anything, and didn't help. It really didn't know what to do.
mm-hmm,
And I
yeah,
never talked to my mother about how nervous she was or insecure she felt, or my dad, about sending their kids to college and them really having not a whole lot of input. Did
yeah.
you ever get to talk to your parents about those types of things, or did they express their concerns to you, or fears, hopes, dreams?
My mom, so eventually my mom and dad separated.
Mm-hmm.
And so we lived primarily, talked about, wow, I'm taking you, and you're gonna be 8 hours away. She always felt like I've instilled within them, because she has
Mm.
3 boys, and I'm the middle. I've instilled in them all that I can to be safe, to be good people, to do the right thing, that she never really worried about it.
Ah,
I mean, she dropped me off. She dropped me off. When we had, and I don't know if you remember this car was called a Yugo. It was real tiny,
wow.
and
Yes.
and I didn't have much, but I had my father's army trunk, and it was filled with things that I thought I needed for school. She loaded me in that Yugo, drove me all the way from St. Louis up to Lansing, Michigan, dropped me off, got me situated in my dorm, and said, "I see you," and
Mm.
that's it.
Yeah.
And back then I didn't have a whole lot of money, so I would not go home for Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'd have to catch the train home for Christmas. But then after that, I was like, I'm just going to stay up in Michigan State, and, even work during the summer and take some courses during the summer. And after a while, I was like, they didn't even miss me. you know, I think she's just happy and proud that, and I see it now as a parent.
Yeah.
When your kids go further than you, you're just so proud to see what they're doing on their own. And my mother, like I told you, my mother's a proud person. And that proudness is actually in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not going to call and say, "Oh, I'm worried. What's going on?" Right? She will wait for us to call and say if
Yeah.
something's wrong. Otherwise, she goes, "My kids are handling it." So she
They
never
they
she
are
never cared. Yeah.
they're made from different stuff.
Yeah.
How old is your mom now?
She'll be 81 this year.
Okay, our parents you and I are similar age. Our parents are a similar age. They are definitely made from different stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say too that my mother, she never did say, I'm worried about you.
Yeah.
Like, and she wouldn't, and back in the day, of course, we didn't have cell phones. So it's not
That's
like
right. That's right.
we're
Yep.
not calling for nothing because you got to
That's
pay for the
right.
phone bill. Don't call me.
That's right.
And don't call me collect.
And don't call me collect. That's right. That's right.
Talk to me about even before you take that test, the aptitude test, and you're good with, you discover you're good with numbers and everyone else realizes it. Were you wanting to be an athlete? Was that always the dream when you were in middle school?
That was the dream. Yeah, from elementary to middle school. I mean, I played baseball with Matthew Dickey. First
Ah,
time I saw a black man really leading something. Two black men in that case, plus my coach at the time, and then my youngest brother played football, and then I was just a big basketball fiend. I played in some some organized sporting was like Herbert Hoover and things of that nature. So I always but basketball was my love, and I was decent at it, but the height just never matched the requirements of the game. So I had to give up on that dream.
but as a black man, as a young black man in the city, and one of my dear friends graduated from Beaumont, Felicia Hinton.
Oh, I know Felicia.
Yes, I know you do.
Yeah.
She and I were freshmen at Mizzou together. And I remember meeting her at Mizzou and getting a sense of the pride and the work ethic, really. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the best description, is the work ethic that was instilled in her, partly from her mom, but also from Beaumont.
Yeah.
What did you
Yeah.
get at Beaumont? What was it like then?
Well, first, I would say it's the only thing I know, right? My entire experience up to that point had been with people. And so I always, in my mind, it was always excellence being displayed by either folks smarter than right? The school teachers that I saw, the administrators. So for me, it was like, what? There's more than what, right?
And your
And
voice dropped out a little bit. Can you repeat that last part? There's more than.
there's more than what you see on a street corner
Yeah.
in your neighborhood. There's more than what you may see on the bus where you're riding just for transportational purposes. Uh, and then even within your own household, the work ethic of your parents, which you then see when you go to school. And a lot of folks, and especially with public school, right, where you're lacking a lot of the resources that some of the other private and gifted schools may have, the ability to overcome and still persevere is probably the biggest thing. When I went through Focus or Leadership St. Louis, we visited Sumner High School. And Beaumont, like Sumner, did not have air conditioning, central air.
Mm.
You had to raise the windows in order to get air into the building. And it was still that way some 20 years later after I graduated. And it took me back to go, wow, look at what we had to endure,
Right.
that others may not have to endure, yet still succeed. Not only graduate, but many of us have gone on to college. Many of us started our own businesses. And so that perseverance, right? Overcoming all the obstacles, every stumbling block that's put in front of you is something that especially, and I didn't know at the time, right? Because you're just going through life like everybody else. But when I look raised properly, if you didn't have perseverance, you didn't have thick skin, and you didn't have the smarts to be able to figure out how to work within a certain environment with the resource you have in order to move forward.
So what was Lansing like for a young Black man in 1980? Because I know what Mizzou was like in Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah, I would tell you this. For someone who was from Missouri, first of all, going up north, right? Like I got that little accent that everybody said, you're so country. So just adjusting to the language, and that's just every. But the good thing that Michigan State and hopefully Mizzou had affinity groups, and so there were Black organizations in each dormitory on campus that would welcome new students coming in. Now, a good thing for me is I was not the, and I didn't notice at the time, I wasn't the only person from St. Louis. So I told you I graduated number 2. This young lady named Patrice Davis graduated number 1. Little did I know she too chose Michigan State, probably for different reasons. But we got there and discovered each other, so I automatically had someone that I could relate with. But one of the things for men, and especially African American men, sports is a great way to bring folks together.
Mm-hmm.
So upon arrival, again, this affinity group is waiting for you. They welcome you. I still don't know anybody. I got to make friends. But when I go to the basketball court and you're playing pickup, you meet so many people. And that's how I started to branch out and really started to learn about relationships, because going to Michigan State was the first time I really and truly was on my own where I had to figure out how to make relationships with folks that didn't come from the same environment, same jurisdiction, same background as myself, and do it effectively. But it was definitely for me seeing a slew of predominantly white folks was different, because it was my real first exposure to having to interact, to engage, to share classrooms, right, study partners, and all of that stuff. It was different for me.
And so for those who are watching this who aren't necessarily from St. Louis, we want to be clear in explaining that Beaumont High School was, am I correct, maybe 99% Black?
That is correct.
In the city of St. Louis, an urban high school, historic high school that you went to, and you mentioned Sumner, of the same percentages at Sumner. So you go from an all Black high school to a diverse environment in Lansing, Michigan. But then you come back home. Why did you decide, and am I correct that it seems, given the years, that you haven't had many jobs?
Well, I've had many jobs just with the same
many companies.
No, you're right. This is the only company. But here's an interesting story. And so when I talked about perseverance and overcoming. So I graduate college August of '83 with my degree. I tried to interview for jobs, accounting jobs. I did not know how to interview. I literally did not know how to interview. And this is a story, and it's stuck in my mind just to show you how bad I was. I'm interviewing, I believe it was with Kraft. I think they're out of Minnesota. And the interview was going so bad that in the end, it's when I first started shaving. And I, like most Black men, you start to break out. You don't know what to do. And, because I didn't have anyone to teach me how to shave and what to shave. I asked the interviewer, a white guy, can what do you shave with? Seriously. And it was, of course, I didn't get the job.
And what you're describing is the bumps happen, ingrown hairs happen.
Ingrown hairs.
Yes.
That go
so you
back
have a bunch of bumps on your face.
I had a bunch of, and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so because this was going so bad, decided I'm just going to ask this white guy, right? Who probably know what the heck are you talking about?
Because they don't have this.
They don't have this issue. I had a good friend from Detroit. He was a year behind me. I'm going to stay out and hang out, right? And I do. And then he graduates. And then I realized I got to go home. So I pack everything up. I go home. I move in with my mother. And of course, she says, you've got to get a job. And I answer an ad. So and so now you have LinkedIn, you got Indeed, you got all these places you can look for a job. Back in the day, you had to look through the paper.
Right.
I'm looking through the post and I see this ad for a cost accountant in Alvin, Texas. Now, born and raised in St. Louis, mother has relatives and she actually comes from Mississippi. I spent some time in Tacoma, Washington, but I was too small with my dad when he was in the Army to even remember. And I'm thinking, where the heck is Alvin, Texas? And mom said, it doesn't matter. If you get that job, you are going. So.
I love your mother, by the way. Let me just say that.
Oh, God. So in preparation, I go back through every interview I've been through. I log every question that I could remember being asked. I said, I'm going to be prepared this time for anything. Because although the first couple of years, like I won't say most, some college students, you play around so much that your GPA is down here, and then the light bulb kicks on, and I get my core courses, and then I'm soaring. I'm making a dean's list and everything. But the GPA overall was about a 3.0.
Oh. And
my major was about a 3.2. But it still wasn't good enough to be competitive in accounting. So I said, I got to make sure that they understand, for me, my 3.2 is equivalent to somebody else's 4.0 if they didn't have to overcome these obstacles. So I go in and I pitch my story. And they asked me about my GPA, and I said, yeah, but I never repeated a course because I couldn't afford to repeat a course.
Ah,
So really, while other people will drop out midway because it looks like they're not going to get the grade they want and retake it, I couldn't afford to. And so,
really
sir,
good
while you
story.
see my 2.5 or my 3.0, when you compare them to someone who maybe has a 3.5, 4.0, the question is, did they have to retake it or did I persevere? And right, so I tell all this story and I get the job. Still don't know where Alvin, Texas is, but it doesn't matter because mama says you're going.
You're going.
It's outside of Galveston. I realize it's outside of Galveston, in between Houston and Galveston. And I go, okay, I can do that. And so I packed up my car, drove down and took the job.
Wow. How long were you there?
Oh, I was in Alvin for 3.5 years, doing a couple of cost accounting jobs. Then I had an opportunity to be the head finance.
We're losing you again. The head finance at
the facility in Long Beach, California.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Expensive.
so I moved from Texas after 3.5 years to California. I was the plant controller for 2 facilities out there, and I stayed out there for about 4 to 5 years. Then I came back to St. Louis in 1992 and been here ever since.
When did you meet the lovely Marcia, your wife?
Oh gosh! So as you know, you will get two different stories.
Well,
But
yeah.
I actually met Marcia over the phone.
But-
Yes. So I was in California, right? And Marcia worked for Monsanto at the time. And Marcia was in accounting too. Her job was to call the plant and give them journal entries and costs that they had to put into their results. So she would call me every month and give me, and 99% of the time, through the dialect in St. Louis, I could tell if you have a hint of African American in you, right? So we started to flirt with each other over the phone.
Oh, I love it.
And then she started telling me about clubs, and then I knew, oh, she is African American, because there's certain clubs that only we would frequent.
Right.
And so what happened is when I would come home, she said she would offer to pick me up at the airport and drop me off. And then, and this is a funny story. So we weren't, in my mind, we weren't dating because I was in California, she was in St. Louis. But then I come and take a job in 92 in St. Louis, and I don't tell her.
Oh, what?
We weren't dating, but one of her good friends was going to be working for me. And she was complaining about having to break in a new boss and this hot shots coming from California. And Marcia says, well, who is it, Faye? It's going to be okay. Some guy named Al Mitchell. And that was in 92. And next thing you know, we are really dating now that I'm here. And then we get married in 96.
You skipped over her reaching out to you to say, how in the world are you here? And you did not tell me. You skipped over that part of the story.
Yes, I'm gonna leave that for her to tell you.
How would you describe your corporate journey? Has it been challenging, exciting, interesting, all of those things?
I will say early on, it was one of exploration. Meaning I wasn't sure how to fit in. One of the few African Americans with the company, not seeing us in the leadership. And keep in mind, I started at a plant, and that's a different environment than the corporate side.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm gonna really talk about the corporate side when I came to St. Louis in '92, because the plant is just a whole different life. It's actually, the culture is different. It's a lot more familiar, and a lot more embracing of you. It's just different. So I come to
That means
corporate.
more of a blue collar setting.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
plant is more of a blue collar setting, and so you see a lot more diversity. Whereas corporate is so many people, it's so big, so many different departments, divisions, and it's just massive. And now you got to figure out how to navigate it, because at a plant there's very little politics, because you really have a couple positions you can go to, and then you're out of the plant looking for something. But in corporate, there's so many different positions, and there's so many people vying for those positions, so it's very political. So the exploration part for me was not only understanding how I fit in, how to make my mark,
Right.
but also now I am competing with other people. So I had to learn how to compete, how decisions are made. Do I really want to play this game? Because no matter what people say, and they say, well, be your authentic self. And that's only, in my opinion, that you can do that only to a point. But at some point, you got to choose whether you're going to play by the rules of the game that have been established. Wasn't looking to do anything else. So the first part of my career was about exploring and even figuring out what do I want to do. And this is what I mean. If you progress in corporate America, you eventually will lead people. Well, first thing I had to ask myself, do I even want to lead people? Because there's a lot of things that come with leading people, from developing strategies to the administrative stuff. If you don't
say that again.
like, and you can't fire people
or
let people go, you don't want to be in a management position.
Right.
So I had to figure that out. Is that something I wanted to do? So that's that part. The next part, after you move up and you decide that's what you want to be, then the question is, well, for me, how high do you want to go? And for me at the time, it was about money. So I said I wanted to be the chief financial officer. Well, then my journey, for me, reality set in, which caused me to really think about the journey. So I told you we got married in 1996. We had our first child born prematurely a few months later, which we didn't. And she was 1 pound and 14 ounces, and she wound up passing. That whole dynamic changed me forever. And I came upon a quote by Maya Angelou that sort of helped define my path forward. And it said, you can only become accomplished at something you love. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things you love doing, and then do them so well that people can't take their eyes off you. I realized at that moment that striving to be CFO is less important than being a good father and being a good husband, and wanting to be around to see my kids grow. A certain amount of money to do that. And so one of my mentors was helping guide my career, told me, she asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, well, I'm not sure, I'm still trying to figure it out. And she said, what do you not want to do? What are you not good at?
That's a great question. And we apologize for the sound dropping out, but I don't want to miss that answer. So what do you not want to do? And then?
And what is it that you will not do? And she gave me this sheet and said, take an inventory, and it was columns. Things you like to do, things you can do, things you don't want to do, things you will not do. And she said, start with the will not do. I did not want to be traveling all over the world. I did not want to be gone from my family at months ends at a time, such that I would miss my kids growing up, sporting events, and those types of things. Once I finished that, I realized I didn't want to be the CFO.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I did that even I had the courage to tell my leader in a very professional way, I don't desire to be CFO. However, I would still like the opportunity to be considered in the event I change my thought process. But I had to go through that journey of ups and downs to realize that I can manage people, I can motivate people, I can encourage people. I think I'm a really good leader. Two, I only want to go so far because I don't want the stress. I don't want everything that comes with it. That's going to take away from what's more important to me. And it is this that helped me stumble into this job, because I love to help other people out, whether it's inside my company or folks that look like me, or kids that have a similar background that come from where I come from, that can see someone go through the same journey that I did. And if I could help them, that's where I got my passion from.
And I can't help but think that such a great loss changes your level, may even make you more compassionate, or change the level of compassion that you have, and
Yes.
makes you perfect for the foundation work.
Yes. I would probably say absolutely. That single event. And here's the thing that and I don't talk about this too much, it also happened during that point of grief, as we were grieving the loss. My work product started to drop.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm worried about my wife,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everything she's going through. And I almost got fired.
Mm.
Yeah, I got called. I remember I got called into HR's office, and my boss was in there waiting. I knew it wasn't good. And I'm the type of person, I rarely get upset. And when I sat down and they started saying, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and I got so mad that I could tell what was about to come out my mouth was not going to be right, so I just shut down.
Mm.
And I got up, left their office, went back to my office. And then they went to the big boss's office, which was 2 doors down from me.
Oh, hang on. The sound's dropping. And then we're going to rebuild the sound here, and you're going to keep talking.
Okay. And so the boss's boss was 2 doors down. And then I got a call wanting to see me the next day. I knew that was not good. When HR wants to see you the following day, that's
Right.
not a good thing. And so I said, I cannot go home with everything going on that we just went through, and Marsha's grieving, and say, on top of that, baby, I lost my job. And I sat down and I crafted this letter, and it was painful because in my mind, I didn't know where they would come from. I didn't see my performance.
Uh-huh.
Like the way that I didn't see it. But I sat down, wrote a letter, took accountability, and said it will never happen again, and sent it off that night. And it was the one thing that saved my job.
Mm.
And this is one of the learnings from my mentor. She's now my mentor. At the time, she wasn't. But she said something that stuck with me all through the rest of this journey. She said, it was not that I did not feel for what you were going through, but as the lead, I'm responsible for 2,000 other people who are also dealing with things. And so I did not want to say, oh, I'll give you a pass for this when someone else may be dealing with a death of their mother or cancer, whatever. And that's my responsibility as a leader. And it crystallized for me that leadership, right, is taking care of the person, but also taking care of the masses. And every decision you make is now applied to everyone else. So it's not a one-off thing. And you really have to think through, well, if I say it's okay, I have to say it's okay to 2,000 potential other issues that may come up. But she was a phenomenal lady. And whether she knew it or not, she was teaching me so much.
Wow.
And even to this day, we're best of friends. And actually, a good portion of why I am and where I am is because of her.
So how did you said you stumbled into the job with the foundation? And what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so actually, if Deborah wanted to continue working in this space, this job would not be open.
Was Deborah the first?
No, so at least as far back as I know, there was Dr. John Mason.
Okay, because Deborah was there a very long time.
He was there a long time, joined us, took over for Dr. Mason and held it, I want to say 14 years or so, if not longer. And then she decided she'd had enough and wanted to retire. And then they actually approached me and said, hey, would you be interested in taking on this position? But I think it was because of the things they saw was involved, right? Going through Leadership St. Louis, which is nothing about, it's totally about the community and uplifting community and learning and understanding all of the issues that we're dealing with. They put me through the Eisenhower Fellowship Program, which is a program that is all about community and engagement and making the world a better place. They knew I served on a couple of boards within St. Louis, and they knew I was active internally, especially with our African-American BRG group in mentoring Black employees and trying to help them navigate the world of corporate America, that they thought that I would be a good candidate, even though I had no background whatsoever in this, right? Except I could count money.
Well, that's important.
I could manage money, but I think it's just the fact that I care so much about the communities that they wanted to invest in, which is primarily, Black and brown communities.
Well, Al Mitchell, I have always been in awe, and I've watched you from afar and have been aware of your work from afar for many, many years. And we only recently have started to get to know one another, really through your wife, Marcia. And it is an honor to get to know you even more and to hear your stories. I knew in my heart that you had great stories. I knew in my heart that they would be inspiring and funny. I also knew that. And so it's such a joy to bring out more of you to people who will get to see this video of living history. So thank you so much, Al. It's been an honor and a joy to get to know you today.
Well, thank you, Carol. And it's always an honor to be with you. Whether it's here or it's an event, it's always.
So what we are doing all this month, or at least for 2 weeks during Black History Month, is introducing you to people who are among us, who are in fact living history. And Al Mitchell, the president of the Bear Fund and the vice president of corporate engagement at Bear, is truly that, living history. Thank you so much. Let me hit stop. And then you want to stop recording to the cloud.